brilliant couple of days then in Spain. Barca 3-1 down, win it 4-3 late on, and Valverde produces a piece of genius to keep Real Madrid in the title race. 6 games to go. 4 points separate the top two. Remember, there's still a Clásico to come at the start of next month as we welcome in Julien Laurens and Mario Melchiot. Now, what's interesting, what's developing news today is that Bayer Leverkusen have confirmed pretty much what we all knew, Ali, was the fact that Xabi Alonso has got a gentleman's agreement that if Real Madrid come a knocking, he can leave Bayer Leverkusen.
What's interesting is that in talking to Bayer Leverkusen and their board and Carlo as well, who has come out and made these statements, last month in our coverage, we were asking him the question about Xabi Alonso and Florian Wirtz, and he said, specifically to Xabi Alonso, he's under contract, there's no issue here. There was no conversation then about a gentleman's agreement, but it so happens that now Bayer Leverkusen are out of the title race, have been out for a while, but now they're out of the title race in Bundesliga. Bayern Munich are going to go on to win it. And then now there's conversation about not only Xabi Alonso, but what's the future of Florian Wirtz? What's the future of Jonathan Tah? This team is kind of falling apart. And Xabi Alonso is saying, gentleman agreements, I'm out. It's simple as that. And of course, that coincided with things falling apart for Carlo Ancelotti and Real Madrid as well. At the same time, you put 2 and 2 together, and it seems inevitable that indeed Xabi Alonso will go on to Real Madrid.
And of course, I think throughout the next few weeks, we'll discuss whether or not that is the right appointment. Carlo Ancelotti, what about his future? But what was interesting, I thought, after the game, Carlo Ancelotti talking about no Kylian Mbappe and talking about his preferred formation. This is what the Real Madrid manager had to say about his decision to go 4-4-2. It's my favourite system. We defend better. It's the best system to defend. Which, Jules, makes you think, well, why don't you do it more?
Well, I guess you don't do it more because you want to or you have to play all of Rodrygo, Vinicius, Mbappe and Bellingham together. And in that case, you can't do that. We saw that against Bilbao, of course, at the weekend with the kind of diamond midfield with Bellingham behind Rodrygo and Vinicius, because Mbappe, as you said, was suspended, getting booed in the stands every time his face was on the massive screen at the Bernabeu. And that's it. And you see there on the graphic, if you want to add Mbappe to this team, that system doesn't work. There's no room for him there. So you either get rid of Rodrygo or get rid of Vinicius to put Mbappe there.
Does it matter who the manager is? If you're obliged to play these players in a system that you know isn't going to be your best, then Ancelotti, Alonso, Klopp, whoever it is, are going to struggle.
Real Madrid is a different team, Dan. When you go there, you don't always dictate everything to the last minute. You understand? You have a boss above you. And he will also want to play his cards, and he says, like, this is the cards we want, because it's not being Real Madrid it's been the biggest club for years now. And, okay, let's say one of the biggest clubs, because, you know, I'm sure Barcelona people will think different. But this is the situation that when they want a particular player, like how they focus on Mbappe, for example, this is not a new situation. This happened prior to that. It happened to other players too, when they wanted players to come in. You understand? I mean, one of the biggest one was when Beckham went, for example, there. It was also the question mark, like, oh, who is Figo is playing on the right? Why is he coming? So normally you have to make it work as a manager. And that is where he is in. But he's identical, the situation, what he's saying now, I want to play 4-4-2. But he knows that one of the key guys, if he puts one of the key guys on the bench, I can almost guarantee you some of them upstairs will start complaining and say, hey, what's going on? This is not how we run the show. And that is sometimes, it's sad to hear, but this is just the way it is. You understand? This is a bigger club, bigger than the coach. And even a coach like Ancelotti, that I really admire, has to make changes.
What's interesting as well is that Alex Kirkland was at the game for us, and the preview, we're like, who's going to get whistled? Who's going to be the one that people are going to blame? And he was saying Carlo Ancelotti when his name was read out. Not particularly, not many whistles towards him, no towards the starting 11. But as you say, Jules, it was when Kylian Mbappe was shown on the big screen, he was the one who got the bulk of the whistles from the Real Madrid fans. So basically, it's the Frenchman's fault.
I knew that's where you were going to go. I think they probably, they maybe booed him a little bit. I think they booed the situation, to be fair. We've said it, I think, when they got knocked out by Arsenal as well. It's simplistic, far too simplistic to say, well, last season they won La Liga and they won the Champions League. He wasn't there. He arrived, and now they're useless. It's not. It's just not as simple as that. There's obviously injuries. There's Toni Kroos not being replaced, which I think we've said a lot. And Ali, maybe most of all of us that banged that drum through the whole season. How do you not replace? You can sign Kylian Mbappe and Mario Melchior and Sasha and Saka and Shaka Hislop and everybody you want. Who in that club didn't think that? Hang on, the guy who's probably been one of the most important players, if not the most, although maybe not the most bling bling, but the most important player of the last decade in this team is retiring, and we don't replace him. Really, somebody thought that would be okay. So there's a lot of issues with that team, not just Kylian. But yeah, I can understand why the fans are not happy with him too.
Can I go back to this 4-4-2 Ancelotti decision? It really seems very simple to me. And while I understand that the politics of Real Madrid can be complicated, if you're Carlo Ancelotti and indeed this is your favorite formation and this is how you feel the team can defend better and be more balanced and gives you the best chance to win, Rodrygo, go sit down.
He's been sitting down pretty much for a lot of these games.
Sit down, Rodrygo. Mbappe is untouchable. Vini is untouchable. I tell you who's not untouchable. Is Rodrygo. And then you demand of Mbappe and Vini, which is something that I don't know that has happened as consistently as it should have. The demanding performance from both Mbappe and Vini, especially and particularly in big moments, in big games, in big nights this season. So Rodrygo becomes the one guy that you can go after. It's an obvious target. And while he may not like it, it's not the first time that he has been told, yeah, we're going to take Vini and we're going to take Benzema. Those are the guys that are going to play. You're going to come off the bench. You'll have an important role. You may be the one scoring the big goals in Champions League coming off the bench. That may be your role.
So why hasn't he done that?
Well, that is indeed what I think it's the most egregious mistake here, an obvious mistake from Carlo Ancelotti. This team has lacked balance the whole season. It is obvious to see that they are short of numbers in the midfield. And the only way to do that is to actually put numbers in that area. Rodrygo's not going to be that guy. I'm not blaming him for anything. I'm just thinking he is short in terms of numbers in the midfield. You got to sacrifice somebody. You start with Rodrygo.
I totally agree. But my concern around leaving Rodrygo, and what you've seen is Vinicius and Kylian Mbappe all kind of drift to that left-hand side. And as a result, there's no real balance on the right. And then what ends up happening is when you're struggling, when things aren't going well with that front two of Vinicius and Kylian Mbappe, Rodrygo is the one who, for some reason, is then inserted to try to provide some balance, to try to provide some kind of an attack for Real Madrid when that other front two isn't quite working. And so much of it reminds me of, I'm sorry, Jules, I don't mean to be blaming another Frenchman, when Antoine Griezmann went to Barcelona, how similar he was with Lionel Messi. Two wonderful talents, but it just didn't work. And I feel this is the same thing. This is repeating itself.
You wonder, as disappointing as this season may end up being for Real Madrid, you wonder where they would be without Fede Valverde. Because he's playing right back, because he's playing in the midfield, because he's playing an advanced position, because he's helping back here, because he's winning that sliding challenge and he's covering over there as well. The goal he deserved because of all the work rate and effort that he puts in each and every one of these games, and the execution of that goal so late in a match with all this pressure, what that result may have meant if they had dropped points again, to be able to deliver. That's a big moment delivery that we're hoping and expecting to get from Kylian Mbappe and Vini Jr. We're getting it from Federico Valverde.
And what a time to do it, Mario. At that stage, the title race, the title was done. And I think that's not an over-exaggeration, but to do that, it just gives everyone a lift going forward now.
Yeah, because that game was kind of like, it was locked up, you understand? They were trying, you understand? And I saw Vini was really trying, you understand, on that side. And I thought he was going to create the opening. But they tried to double up on that side, you understand, a couple of times. But then when he gets that ball, but prior to that, he tried already to strike a couple of times. And what I like about him is the energy that he possesses. It's every game is the same for me when I watch him. You understand? He plays on the right-hand side, you understand, in this game, but then he tucks in the middle. But for him to be out, he's not only like the goal scorer, but I can guarantee you that the guys around him, like the younger players, and Barcelona is definitely a younger side, they need someone like him. He has not only the experience, but you want someone like a level-headed player like that, because he can calm you down when things are really getting hot. And them playing now in the period where they are with the league, and then later on they got to meet Paris Saint-Germain, it's going to be a moment where you need a player like him. So it's going to be a big loss if he's not there.
It's that experience as well, isn't it, Ali? Around what is quite a young side.
Yeah, and the quality in front of goal. Now, Ferran Torres has been hot for Barcelona. I imagine that he will be the one that plays in place of Robert Lewandowski, and he has been very good whenever he has either come off the bench or had the opportunity to start games. But he's not Robert Lewandowski, and so in front of goal, you wonder if there will be a moment in which you need that quality, in which you need the movement away from the ball that is going to allow Lewandowski to get on the end or something. The instincts of Lewandowski are superior to anybody else in Barcelona in front of goal, so you miss that. I think what you may gain in Ferran Torres being on the field is mobility and the ability to press the ball when need be, to get around the ball so that you can press and counter-press once you lose possession of the ball, which Ferran Torres can do at this point in his career, and Lewandowski can do it, but it doesn't prefer it. It's not something that he would want to be doing consistently. Hence the importance of Rafinha, hence the importance of Lamine Yamal, having players that are active all the time, and Lewandowski just kind of stays in his position so that he can get on the end of things. Ferran Torres will have more activity. Now, I think more activity doesn't mean that he's going to be more productive. More activity is going to be he's going to be moving in and out of spaces, and perhaps that's what they'll miss Lewandowski, in that he knows where to move and when to move.